So now after we are done with the installation, the Raspberry Pi is just going to boot up. There will be a button which says like install completed successfully, and after you hit that, it will just boot up and you will see this screen. There will be a lot of text that goes by, and after that you'll see the screen which says welcome to Raspberry Pi desktop. Before you start, there are a few things you need to set up. So we're going to set those things up. The Little Princess network was not me. So it's just going to update itself, and by now you have just set up your Wi-Fi connection to this. And next time you boot into this, you don't even have to connect it to your monitor. You can just like remote into your Raspberry Pi, and it can frankly be anywhere in your home. You just need to connect it to a power cable. You only need to connect it to a HDMI and to a physical keyboard the first time you boot it, really, because the next time you boot it, you can simply work over the network. And I'll show you in a minute how you do that. So now the Raspberry Pi has fully updated itself. Now I'm going to show you how to set up. Oh, it's asking me to reboot, so let's just reboot. And then after that, I'll show you how to set up the Raspberry Pi so that we can log into it over a network. So let's just wait for the boot screen, because I really like the boot screen. It's beautiful. Oh, look at that. So this was the part that we missed, and that's actually why I wanted to show you the boot up process, because this is what's going to happen even the first time. So this is our second boot. So even the first time when the Raspberry Pi booted up, after you installed the OS on the system, it was going to look like what it just did. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go right here. We are going to go to Preferences and Raspberry Pi Configuration. And we are going to go to Interface. And we are going to say VNC Enable. And we are also going to say SSH Enable, and we are going to say the camera to be enabled. So what we're doing right here is we're enabling some interfaces so that we can use our Raspberry Pi to its maximum potential. And we're just going to say OK for now, and later on I'm going to show you some of the other interfaces up here. But today we're just going to enable these three things, and then we'll get back to our Windows computer, and then I'll show you how to just log into your Raspberry Pi without even connecting a keyboard or HDMI cable to it. You just need the power cable. Okay. So we are going to reboot our Raspberry Pi, and the next time we boot up, we will actually remote into the Raspberry Pi. One more piece of information before we can remote into our Raspberry Pi, that is, we'll need the IP address of our Raspberry Pi on the network. For this, after you're booted your system again with the VNC enabled, you'll see this little symbol over here which says VNC in a weird looking font, but just double click that and you'll see that your IP address pops up here, and you'll be needing this, so write it down. You'll be needing this to connect to your Raspberry Pi remotely, and we'll do that as the next step. So before I disconnect my Raspberry Pi and just start booting into it over the network, I wanted to show you once how the over the network connection works. So what you need to do is download an application called VNC Viewer on your laptop or any computer that you use, and put in the IP address right here in this bar, and just hit enter, and this box will pop up. In this box, just type in your username and your password, and you will be able to remotely connect to your Raspberry Pi. And as you can see, we have successfully logged into a Raspberry Pi, and I can use my laptop to control my Raspberry Pi. And what I like to do here is just hit this scale to 100% button and enter into full screen. So that way I get like a nice full view of my Raspberry Pi. And that's it. Now you can remote into your Raspberry Pi, and we'll continue our next session by remoting into the Raspberry Pi and not actually connecting it to a monitor or a physical keyboard or a mouse. So see you later. Guys, this is the last video for the part 1, and what I want to show here now is that we have disconnected all the cables that we had connected to our Raspberry Pi. So we only have the power cable connected to it, and now we are going to just remote into it using our laptop, which I have connected to these monitors. So only the laptop is connected to the monitors, and this is how my regular setup is. So I have 2 monitors and the laptop is underneath my table. And we are going to boot into our Raspberry Pi just using the network. We had saved the password, so it boots in directly. And what we can see here is that the resolution is kind of messed up, right? Like it's just this small little box, and I was amazed at first and kind of confused as to why this was happening and why the resolution is so bad. But then I realized that I had not set up my resolution settings under preferences. So what you need to do, if this happens with you, and this might not happen with you, is that go to the preferences here and go to Raspberry Pi configurations and set resolution, and change this resolution to whatever your monitor is capable of supporting. So my monitor is capable of supporting this resolution, so I'm going to set it to that. Say OK, and it is going to ask me to reboot the computer. Yeah, there you go. It asks you to reboot the computer when you try to close out of it, and you just have to say yes. And after it has done rebooting, when it logs in again, you'll see that you'll have a full screen size, and it will look much nicer and much easier to work with.